Hey guys, it's Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about EDH. Got some more EDH decks, and this time we got Skithiryx. This is a big, nasty infect dragon. This is definitely one of my more, I don't want to say cutthroat or competitive or whatever, but this does make people rage pretty hard. People really don't like infect, or some people don't. They get pretty triggered by it, so I don't know. Anyways, this dude's 5 mana 4/4, bunch of abilities, flying, infect, black to give him haste, double black to regenerate, and he's a skeleton dragon, so that's pretty sweet. Obviously, everything about this card is sweet. Black dragons are obviously sweet. He kills stuff, and of course gives your opponent infects, so it's very nice. Kills them a lot faster than you think it would, obviously. There's obviously ways to pump his power in the deck. So basically, the strategy though is that you don't really need a ton of infect stuff because this guy is just pretty much better than almost all of them, just due to the fact that he has evasion, and as well as he's somewhat resilient with regenerate, and he's rather unexpected because he has haste. So he can come in and immediately take someone out if, depending on the board state, you know. So like that's pretty sweet. So all the other infect stuff is just too weak, dirtily crappy. I mean, you're just playing like garbage cards in your deck. Like you already have the best infect card, right? Like this isn't like blue green infect like from Legacy or whatever, where you're playing like an aggro control. No, that's dumb. That's dumb. This is pretty much a hard control deck with some combo stuff in it. And this is basically the best way to kill someone. Uh, just poison them out. So yeah, that's what we'll do. So, bloop bloop. Let's go ahead and start with the land. Start with the mana. So, like any mono black deck, the most important thing is Cabal Coffers. Cabal Coffers is basically the most important card in your deck. Lets you do tons and tons of stuff, especially when you're drawing a lot of cards. This will let you play them all out. And the great thing is that people don't want to ever destroy lands. Land destruction is kind of like taboo or frowned upon or shied away from, which is stupid because then you have shit like this, like coffers or Guy's Cradle or whatever, which just do ridiculous things, you know. So yeah, this thing is totally nuts. Adds a gajillion mana. So yeah, we'll play mostly swamps in here. Um, Yeah, not much more to say about Cabal Coffers. It's like the first thing you'll tutor for. This thing wins you the game. It's really unassuming. Just hangs out with your land, so even if your board is clear, like people can misjudge you and be like, "Oh, whatever." But like anyone that's been playing for a while probably knows that this card's pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. Okay. Bloop, bloop. After that, we got Urborg. Urborg just turns all of your non-swamp lands, including Coffers itself, into swamps. So it super powers up Cabal Coffers, which is pretty sweet. And then we got the 4 fetch lands, which have synergy with other cards later, like Crucible of Worlds. Bloop bloop. Then we got onto the utility stuff. Mouth Ronom, this card's kind of replaceable, but it's super sweet because, well, it's another snow land, so it's good with the snow stuff. And it's removal. So it's pretty cool, especially when you have Crucible Worlds, you can recur it and do other sort of stuff with it, which is pretty nice. So having a land that acts as like a way to kill stuff as removal spell is pretty sweet. Might be cuttable. I've always kind of liked it though. Deserted Temple. Untap your Cabal Coffers to produce even more mana. Obviously very good with Urborg. And then, oh yeah, it's also Power of an Infinite Combo, which I'll get to later. Okay. Stuff's flying all over the place. I can do this. Strip Mine, just again for you problematic utility lands. Thespian Stage, typically to copy your coffers. Vesuva also to copy your your Cabal Coffers. I mean, there's other utility lands you could play like Ancient Tomb or Bajuka Bog and stuff, but I don't have them in here. It's kind of tight, you know, for non swamp lands. And of course, Buried Ruin, great with Crucible to get Crucible back, or just to play this from the graveyard with Crucible in play, and then recur stuff, all your artifacts, obviously. And then of course 24 swamps. And obviously they're snow covered because there's other cards that interact with snow covered stuff, and so there's an actual reason to play them. And these ones just look so cool. Big fan of the Cold Snap cards. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to, let's go creatures, because we don't got a ton of those. All right. Bloop. Okay, so first one up is Meosion of Night's Reach. This thing is, I mean, it's whatever. It's basically just here as a mind twist for all of your opponents. And it does have the nice ability of being able to, like when you cast sweepers and stuff, to stay in play. If it still has a divinity counter on it, which is pretty sweet. So that's nice. Draconic Revenant, it's mana doubler, and it's an outlet for all that mana. So that's pretty sweet. Just another nice, decent threat. Grave Titan, this guy's just, I mean, basically he's just such a huge, big beater. He makes tons of guys. I mean, tons and tons of guys, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, this card is super duper sweet. I like it a lot. There's just not a lot of downside to putting this guy in. It's just a good threat after you wipe the board, to clog a board up, to keep people from attacking you. I mean, pretty sweet. This deck doesn't play a ton of creatures, but Grave Titan is definitely one you'd want to play. Massacre Worm, basically a nice card to 2-4 against token decks. Obviously, can sometimes win you the game. It's pretty ridiculous. And of course, when you kill stuff, Massacre Worm makes them lose a bunch of life. Pretty sweet. And it's a 6 mana, 6/5 worm. So, Magus of the Coffers is just basically a Cabal Coffers that's a dude. So even more mana. And Cryptghast, it's a mana doubler, but it also has Extort, so you can gain extra life, which is really nice. That'll definitely come in handy. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the card drawing. So let's start off with basically the second most important card, or maybe it's the first most, it's hard to tell, but Necropotence. So this thing you can't even play in most formats. This thing is super busted. I'm not going to go on too long about it, but being able to play this is ridiculous, especially with Coffers, which is like your first tutor target typically. Your second one will a lot of the times be Necro. Necroing for like 5, 6, 7 to refill your hand is really, really good. Yeah, free card drawing, right? Can you believe it? Who would have thought that'd be insane? Also, the art is amazing. I mean, you don't really need other card drawing spells other than this, just because how powerful it is. Yeah. I mean, and of course you can kill it with some of your own sweepers. Like, so if you're too low on life or whatever. Yeah, so it's pretty sweet. I mean, this does really the bulk of all your card drawing and card advantage shit. So this thing is pretty busted. So if we can play it, we'll play it. Phyrexian Arena, just another nice card to draw. Just like on third turn, you just naturally draw it. You can play it. Feels good. You don't tutor for it too often, but it's definitely a good card to draw. It just gives you an additional card every turn. So can't go wrong there. And then we got Promise of Power. So this is one I've always liked because it gives you a big flying dude and then also draws you a bunch of cards. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't think I've ever played it without the Entwine. That's typically what you do. But yeah, so it's just a big dude and gives you a bunch of cards immediately and a big flyer. Pretty sweet. Okay. So let's go ahead and get to, Tutors, I guess? Yeah, let's go with that. All right, so we got first up, Expedition Map. This card tutors 4 Cabal Coffers. Vampiric Tutor, yep, this is another great tutor. No Imperial Seal or Grim Tutor, those are in other decks. Although obviously if they were printed, I guess I'd get copies for this deck, but yeah, those should be in here, obviously. Demonic Tutor, of course, because it's awesome. Diabolic Tutor. Mastermind's Acquisition. This card's basically another Diabolic Tutor, but also if you can play with sideboards, if your playgroup lets you or whatever, obviously you can get a ton of cards that you wouldn't really put in the main deck. Like, engineered plague or something. I don't know, all sorts of stuff. So, increasing ambition. Tutors for something early game, late game gets you combo cards when you flash it back. Dark Petition, yeah, this card's really great. It's basically demonic tutor. So it only basically costs 2 because it produces the 3 if you have the spell mastery. Demonic Occlusion, a buyback tutor, so this is pretty sweet late game, especially with Necro. Just discard like lands or whatever. Diabolic Revelation, this card's great late game. Again, gets you a bunch of different cards. So it's card advantage and card selection. And then of course, Besiege the Queen really only costs 3 black. Pretty sweet card. Definitely great in here in a mono black deck. Okay, so let's go to the Planeswalkers. So I have a total of 2. Oh, there we go. Is that? Yeah, there we go. So Liliana Vess, of course, is just mostly just a vampiric tutor, 2 vampiric tutors. But the plus is good, so you can disrupt random control players or combo players or whatever. And the obviously you can win the game with it, which is pretty sweet. Bloop, bloop. And then Lily of the Dark Realms is even better because the +1 gets you a swamp, which is really great. I mean, that's like the best card you could get in the deck and when you're rebuilding the first few turns. The -3, of course, will pump your Skithiryx or kill stuff. And then your -6, of course, will generate the Jillian mana. Pretty sweet, too. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the recursion stuff. So we got Necromancy. Yeah, this card is sweet. Again, this is just, I mean, I guess it's kind of like a combat trick. It's like an instant speed combat trick. But typically it's just another animate dead. And of course we got the regular animate dead. I mean, yeah, these take stuff out of your graveyard. Or more often other people's graveyards, of course, which is pretty sweet. Yawgmoth's Will. This card's really, really good when you have Cabal Coffers. So when you have like 1,000,000 mana, you can replay your fetch land, play a bunch of spells, recast like any destroyed mana ramp, things like that. And then of course Crucible Worlds. This card is obviously very good with, well, if your Cabal Coffers gets destroyed, it's good with your lands and stuff, your land fetchers and things like that. Talking about things that kill things, let's talk about all the removal. So, first up, we have Innocent Blood. So this card is pretty sweet. Just a super cheap card that you can cast early game when you're still building. And this 1 mana, each player sacrifices a creature. Nice little creature kill spell. Liliana's Triumph. This card is sweet with, well, Liliana's in play, but also it's just another instant speed removal spell. So hits everyone, each opponent, which is really nice, and of course makes them discard too if you have a little Liliana in play. Force of Despair. This card is, I'm not 100% sure about it, but it's pretty sweet. It's kind of like a way to interact with like combo decks, things like that. People just put a bunch of stuff into play in 1 turn, and you can cast it for free, of course. But even like it's just 3 mana, that's very reasonable for like a mass removal spell. Even I guess even if it's like they play 1 big thing, like this is a fine like Hero's Downfall or whatever. So O-Stone, of course, lets you deal with artifacts and enchantments, which can be very difficult to deal with. Withering Wisp, this is a pretty sweet card because it's like if you have a bunch of snow-covered lands in play, it's basically Pestilence, but it's cheaper, so that's pretty cool. And the art is sweet, and yeah, so it's like a cheaper Pestilence, and it gives you instant speed, like removal and damage and stuff like that, which is pretty nice, pretty nice. Ashes to Ashes, just more good removal. Toxic Deluge, what a sweet card. This 3 mana Wrath. Kills all sorts of nasty things. Dead of Winter. We have all of these snowlands and might as well use them. So this thing kills a lot of stuff. Can't go wrong. Barter and Blood. Yep, this thing is, well, this is two creatures for each player. Very sweet. Damnation, we're playing mono black. Mutilate, we're playing mono black. Yep. All is Dust lets us. There we go. Well, sort of. All is Dust lets us kill stuff, and it's colorless, so. But it basically just kills stuff. Yeah. So it's like an instant speed. Instant speed. It's like popping an O-stone or whatever. Although this leaves all your artifacts around, which can be nice. And of course, Decree of Pain. The cycling is very, very good. More instant speed interaction, which we're kind of lacking. And as well as just hard casting this thing is pretty sweet with like just 6 or 7 creatures in play. Pretty awesome. Okay. Now let's go to some of the more like lock pieces. Bloop, bloop. Okay, so we got first up is Spreading Plague. This card is sweet. We don't play a ton of creatures. We're not really reliant on a lot of creatures. So yeah, this card is very good. Killing stuff. It stays in play and it just kills stuff. So yeah. No Mercy. Anything that deals damage to you, you can kill it. Yeah. So yeah, it's good. Infernal Darkness, one of my favorite cards. This card is absolutely brutal, despite the silly Phil Foglio art. This thing is pretty ridiculous. Being able to walk out a table for like 4 or 5 turns pretty easily, not a big deal. Should give you enough time to kill everyone. Pretty awesome. Torpor Orb, we don't play a ton of creatures with ETB stuff, so this basically doesn't affect us, so it's very awesome here. Cursed Totem, same thing as Torpor Orb. It punishes creature stuff, very cool. Tormod's Crypt is another way to hate on graveyards, and it's free. Although Nile Spellbomb would be pretty good too. And then we got, let's go look at the ramp stuff. Bloop. Okay, so first off we got Cage Sun. So it's mana doubler, pumps all your creatures, that's pretty cool. Yep. Same thing with Gauntlet of Power. Gilded Lotus, yep. Thran Dynamo. Coalition Relic. I'm just naming the cards because this is all obvious. Yep. Warm Power Stone. Soul Ring. Yep. Was that a Mana Vault? Yep. Mana Crypt. Yep. And Dark Ritual. That's a yes. Okay. And last but not least, we'll go to the sort of, it's kind of like miscellaneous sort of combo stuff. So let's start there. So first off, we got bloop, bloop, Helm of Obedience, and of course Leyline of the Void. These cards were all chosen mostly because they do other things, but in conjunction with other things, they do good stuff. So obviously Leyline is good graveyard hate, and then Helm of Obedience by itself is actually a little weak. I guess it does kind of steal creatures, but basically you can kill one person with a Leyline and a Helm in play. Just pay 1, tap it. They don't reveal anything because it all gets exiled, and then they draw and they die. Pretty sweet. Bloop, bloop. Okay. Lash Rive. This is of course very good for pumping Skithiryx, or just by itself in a pinch. It's another creature. Oh, and it's also free to equip. Same thing with Nightmare Lash. Basalt Monolith is basically like another mana rock, but it combos with Rings of Brighthearth to make infinite mana, which is very good. Rings, of course, will combo with like fetch lands, and say you want to put counters with O-Stone on other things, it'll let you put additional counters on. Lets you target 2 lands with Strip Mine, all sorts of different interactions with Rings, which is really good. Yeah, this card is really sweet. Revel in Riches, this is a fairly newish card. This one's really cool. I like it a lot. Basically just like play, like tap your coffers for a bunch of mana, then wipe the board, get a pile of tokens, and then win the game in your next upkeep. Yeah, it's literally kind of a 1-card combo, which is pretty sweet. So that's really good. Obviously, even if you're not winning the game with it, you're still getting a bunch of extra mana with it, which is very good. Obviously with the additional win the game thing attached. Army of the Damned, just a big haymaker. I mean, it's just a huge haymaker. You just cast it, even if they have to kill it or wrath. You can cast it again, because it has flashback. Then also like things like the sun or Caged Sun will pump all your dudes. Gauntlet of Power, things like that. Pretty sweet. And then Exsanguinate, great if you're, well, it's to take advantage of other people getting other people's life totals really low. It's extra life gain, which is really sweet. And gosh, what else? Oh yeah, and it's an outlet for all your infinite mana. So that's sweet. Oh yeah, also I forgot to mention rings, Desert Temple, and coffers will give you infinite black mana too. So, bloop bloop. So that is it. I think that's basically everything. Hey, this guy is pretty sweet. Does all sorts of stuff. Yeah, this is a pretty sweet deck. I like it a lot. I like just killing stuff. It's kind of like board wipe tribal. I like killing stuff. I like casting Cabal coffers and Necropotence, and infecting people for a bajillion. So yeah, so that's about it, guys. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this. This is a pretty sweet deck. I like playing mono black. I like playing snow covered stuff. I like killing stuff. I like Necropotence. You can't lose. You can't lose. So, thanks for stopping by, guys, and have a great day.